Set. 4, 3, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday Morning Quarterback. Today, we are four pastors who love ministry, leadership, and sports. Today's one of our favorite episodes. It's the Super Bowl reactions. It's a rainy day here in North Georgia. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Had a good time watching the game. Adam, I stayed up and I watched the game, man. It was great. And Taylor's boyfriend won. It was wonderful.
His wife made him stay up. But John, is it raining there in Virginia today?
It is, man. Overcast all day, but God's good. God's very good.
Nice. Adam, his wife was guilting him because he didn't even watch the post game.
Yeah.
That's because she wanted him to watch Taylor. That's it.
Paul stayed up for his first Super Bowl in like 15 years because of Taylor
20
Swift.
at least.
Oh.
He's trying to spin it this morning, but really it was him. That's what kept him up.
And Adam told him he'd get voted off the pod island if he didn't watch the Super Bowl.
When did all this happened? When these conversations never happened.
Paul loses conscious when he's texting past 9 o'clock because he's not used to being up that late. So anyway, let's jump into it. Adam, what were your reactions and thoughts from the game last night?
Well, my reaction is I love football. I mean, it was just, I thought last night's Super Bowl was everything that just a sports fan could want it to be. It was one of the rare years that I didn't have a rooting interest. I mean, on both sides, there's things, but I just thought it was an excellent game. And one that, that old cliche, someone has to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I thought both teams played great, really, on both sides of the ball. You saw a mixture of pass and run on offense, and then on defense, they were pretty much keeping everything in front of them. I just thought it was a beautiful game of football, and I thought even the refs did a good job of staying out of the game.
Yeah.
Because we've seen in recent years how a call at the end of the game can really turn it, but I thought they did a decent job. So, yeah, it was just fun to watch.
John, what popped out to you?
Yeah, I'd jump in on that refs thing. It was great to let them play sometimes and, physical game and nobody got too animated. Nothing got out of hand, but I thought it was really helpful. One of the other things is just good to watch two coaches that pride themselves on strategy, continue to adjust throughout the game and make changes and shifts, looking for the opportunity to just expand the game in such a way that really, I think we find some really interesting play calls and some variants. It was good to see.
Paul, what jumped out to you? And then we'll kind of walk through some of the key elements of the game.
Yeah, no, it was a really good game. It had a lot of tension in it, which I was really enjoying. I mean, I don't think you had a game that you kind of had some lull in it or anything. I mean, it was a good back and forth. Even which this will be a key thing, obviously, but even the punt block, field goal block was huge. That was a big deal in the whole game, obviously, but it's little things like that I think, to Adam's point and to the refs that John made a point of, like both of these guys, like it was a good game to watch. It was entertaining and it was what you wanted it and expected it to be from the hype. So
I actually thought the Niners D played better than they had played in the past few weeks. I mean, so they kind of shut them down, but you got this weird dynamic now. This is like the third time the Chiefs have been down by 10 at halftime. So they obviously are a slow starting team. Let me ask y'all this. John, what'd you think of the end of the regulation? I don't know about you guys, but I don't think they did a good job explaining that. Like Tony did at the end. He's like, for you guys freaking out, we're going to go into the second quarter of overtime. And then boom, the play happens. I'm like, call timeout. And then this is damning. I saw today that some of the Niners were saying they were unclear of the new overtime rules. That kind of makes you look kind of rough. But John, the big argument was, San Fran defers, or they take the ball first, and then they don't get it, and then they kick a field goal. What was your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I was right there at that game. I think you're close. I would go all the way back to the end of regulation. You're close. You can put the game away. All you have to do is get a first down. I know the Raiders, that twinge of that, the Lions, that twinge of that. If I go for it, it'll become the laughing stock here. I think with McCaffrey in the backfield, I probably would have just taken the time and said, we're going to treat it as 4-down territory. We're going to assume that the best running back in the football league can pick up 4 yards on 2 carries, and I would have went for it, and I would have never given the ball back to Patrick. That's just my drive as if I were the coach, but clearly not.
Dan Campbell is probably sitting there chuckling, and everybody killed him a few weeks ago for doing something like that. Adam, what was your thoughts on it?
Well, my thing, I'm still scratching my head over the end of regulation. I text you guys, like, Kansas City had 6 seconds left, and they were on, I think, the 7 or 8 yard line. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
I still can't figure out why they didn't. You have more than enough time to get a shot off. So I don't understand that. But obviously now it doesn't matter. No one will remember that in a week. But with the call to take the ball, I think Romo, or maybe it was the other guy that said it, they had been on the field, their defense. So I think they wanted that rest because you saw those players were wearing down.
Fast, man, yeah.
I've never seen Christian McCaffrey breathing like he was at the end of the game. So I think that played into it.
Yeah, there were a few dynamics. You're gonna hear me, but I want to read a picture to y'all real quick. You might not see my phone. Hold on, and it's on Kyle Shanahan. And here's what it says. Let's see if I can find it. It says, oh, where'd it go? Hold on. It's Kyle Shanahan. Oh, where's that? Hold on. It's pretty. Can I find it? No, I can't find it. Basically, it's something like in the second half of the, sorry, this isn't good TV. In the second half of Super Bowl games, I'll be back in a second, Kyle Shanahan was outscored like 76 something to like 13 or something bad. Yeah. So I thought all in all, Kyle coached a good game. But man, he's going to start really feeling that pressure of 0-3. Can he not get over the hump? Here's another thought too. Everybody's been like, oh, draft a lower tiered or draft a quarterback, pay him nothing, build up all of the pieces around him. And Pat Mahomes basically said, you can do that even when I have a down year and no receivers, and it still doesn't matter. Still doesn't matter. So let's kind of shift gears real quick to Pat Mahomes. Paul, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think Pat Mahomes, now that he's got number 3 and he's in his late 20s, do you think he can catch Tom Brady at 7?
I mean, I wouldn't see why not. I mean, he's got a long road to go. Obviously, he's getting there for sure. But I mean, back-to-back Super Bowls, and then, I mean, at least for this decade, he is the dominating quarterback, and has put up the numbers and has gotten the rings to boot. So, I mean, I think we're living in an era where we're getting a chance to be able to see what could potentially be a guy that's going to catch up to what is, the GOAT in football. So it'd be awesome. I would love to see that. I mean, this is a once in a generation kind of an individual that you find. And I think he showed a lot of what that kind of poise is to have his team go down all the way and all the way down the other side of the field and score and win the Super Bowl and be unfazed. Like, he was just going and going and going. I mean, it was awesome to watch. So I think with that mentality and what he's already accomplished, we're on the road to maybe seeing somebody catch up to Brady, which would be amazing, man.
I saw a graphic that said he's in his MJ 93 year where he's the best in the world, but not the greatest of all time yet. I thought that was very reminiscent. Adam, what do you think as we enter in the Mahomes era?
Yeah, I know others do it, and I just can't help but compare it to the Jordan-LeBron debate. I would be shocked if Mahomes doesn't get at least 2 more, but I don't think he needs to get 7 or even 6 in the minds of many to surpass Brady, because just keep in mind, there's a group of, 10 to 30-year-olds living right now. They don't really understand how long and how great Tom Brady was. But I think Mahomes is going to shatter so many of those other, like, passing yards, playoff records, those kinds of things, that he might just need to get 5. And because, he has all these stats, and obviously you can just look and see he does things Brady can't do. And really what he did last night showed that, because he has mastered, like Brady did, taking what the defense gives you in the most clutch of moments, but he can run the ball. And Tom Brady could never do that. And that's really, if you look at this playoff run, he closed out those games with his legs. So
yeah.
I think, sky's the limit for him. And I'm saying what everybody already knows, but yeah.
What do you think, John?
Especially on 4th downs, man. Like, everybody knew, like, they ain't no
And that was a sick play too, man.
It was, man. Woo. Like the running back's not getting that ball.
No.
He's getting the ball. And he's running and getting a first down, which is awesome. Like, it was so cool to watch.
That's that coach quarterback trust too. John, what do you think?
I mean, there's no doubt gifting, ability, talent. I think the question for me is longevity. Right now, you know, as a young man playing good football, speed slows down eventually, body takes a beating. I think where Brady did a really good job of excelling is taking care of himself, both mentally and physically, and becoming that consummate professional, even when it wasn't necessarily fun all the time. It became a job. And so I think somewhere in the early 30s, you're going to have to see that happen as well for Patrick to be able to really kind of make that push for that last couple. Because if you think about it, you're looking at Tom Brady, who's like, you know, competitive every single year. But in his mind, he's going to win the football game because of all that preparation. And so right now, I think Patrick can rely more on physical gifting and talent. I think it depends on how he transitions towards the later part of his years when that physicality of the game kind of slows down on him and how he can get the ball out. You know, 6'7", that's a feat. And I think it also depends on if Andy Reid's there coaching him. I think there's a lot of credit you have to give that guy, and I'm sure he's probably doing well now, but you know, time takes its toll and other things happen. So I think it would be a stretch for him to make it, honestly, just with those things.
Here's another interesting thing to think about. I think you're right, John. It's how long can Andy Reid go? Because he's 65. Belichick, to put it in perspective, 72. But you know, health is going to come into play there. So can he get another good, or he'll get another good coach? But then the second is, can they transition from Kelsey to? They're going to have to draft or land somebody soon. Yeah. I mean, because some people were chitter-chattering about Kelsey retiring this year. Obviously, when they won, you knew they weren't, because they're going to try to go for a three-peat. But he's on the downside. I mean, he really struggled this year physically. And so, I mean, I would say 2 more years maybe, because he's on the upper 30s and he's a physical player. The one thing they do great is, man, they just draft good running backs. And that's good. But I think the GMs hit the nail on the head where if you can give him a good defense, I mean, it really, you can interchange the pieces, and he's always going to have a crack at it. And then from an outsider's perspective, this is also interesting too. Now you've got Harbaugh in your conference with Herbert. You've got Sean Payton in your conference. You've got a revamped Raiders. And so, man, the AFC, the quarterback play is just top of the notch. And so how many, you know, will it be the every other year? He'll get there every other year, and then can they knock him off? Can Burrow knock him off again, or can, you know, that type of thing. But in totality, John, Adam, would y'all say you had any surprises coming out of the now that the season's wrapped and seeing how it all panned out? I mean, even the fact that the Chiefs had to go on the road, they had the toughest schedule. The playoffs went into Baltimore, but in totality, any surprising takeaways, or just any takeaways you didn't foresee?
No, you know, and you pointed out Kansas City has their worst receiving core since Mahomes has been there, and they went to Buffalo, and then they went to Baltimore against the MVP. And I saw on Facebook memories it showed me last year, and I said, it's Patrick Mahomes' world and everyone else is living in it. And here we sit a year later, it's the same exact thing. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yep. John, any surprising takeaways?
I mean, nobody's shocked by the Chiefs, but I still feel like, you know, Brock Purdy has given a great effort here. I mean, he played better than anybody anticipated to play. He wasn't playing to just manage the game.
Yep.
I think we all assert that he was taking shots downfield. He was throwing into probably one of the toughest secondaries in the National Football League, and he was doing a great job, completion rate. And so if the Cowboys were wise, they'd look to pick him off there and offer him a big money contract and maybe help him out. But
hey, we're not talking about the Cowboys today, John.
Well, I'm just trying to give some wisdom here early on.
Hey, Panthers are here in the market too, looking for a quarterback.
We are just 2 weeks away from this is our year conversation. So
no, not next year. You're gonna get the depressed Cowboy fan all year. I promise.
The same every year.
Mark the tape. I've been holding it.
Keep this tape, brother. I'm gonna mark it right here.
Hey, speaking of tape, I don't know if y'all were on this pod, but I believe I was the only one who picked the Chiefs. Adam was on Buffalo. My dad was on the Bengals. John was on the Niners. Which, side note, next episode, John pulled up some good old receipts for all of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We didn't do it today because my dad's not on here. He's at a funeral. But anyway, that'll be fun. And I think I tried to tell y'all started sleeping on the Chiefs. But anyway, it is what it is. All right, let's shift to dynasties real quick. Let's talk sports dynasties. Now, we all know, I mean, obviously most people would put the Bulls at the top of that. But let's talk about this. Like, what are some of your favorite dynasties? And the reason why we talk is because, okay, you win 2 out of 3, or, 3 out of 3 Super Bowls out of 4 years, having an opportunity to three-peat. I mean, that's a big deal. So the Chiefs are entering into that dynastic conversation. John, who are some of your just favorite dynasties, thinking back over all the sports and over all the years?
But yeah, I think you got to point to, as of late, the Warriors changed the entire game of basketball. Just the fluidity of the game, and through a dynasty, right? If they weren't winning, then nobody would have adopted that methodology. So you can't, whether you like them or don't, you have to at least cite the fact that right now you can go to AAU games and watch people launch up threes to everyone's delight in a way that you've never done in your entire life. And so I think you got to point out that one as at least a starting point. You got some historic ones. Obviously, you got the Yankees. You'd be remiss to look back over the history of the Yankees and see they've been incredible. You do have the 49ers, who have had quite a successful run throughout history, even though Joseph would not like to admit that.
They haven't won since '94, but you're right. Before that, yes.
Well, but before you were born, Joseph, they were successful. That's hard to understand. But yeah, I think those two or those three kind of rise to the top in different sports. But the Bulls have to be pretty high up there. And for me, the University of North Carolina Tar Heels, one of the greatest dynasties in all of sports.
That's a longevity dynasty too. I agree there. Paul, I know you're a Yankees fan. What's some of your favorite sports dynasties?
Yeah, John mentioned already, the Yankees. You've got Warriors. I mean, before the Bulls, you've got the Celtics that have had history with dynasties when it comes to that. So, I mean, there are historical ones. The hard thing is like some of these that we've mentioned are before we were ever even paying attention to sports or anything. I think for me, the lived dynasty was the Bulls. I mean, that was awesome to be able to kind of see 2 three-peats with a break in between. Like, that's incredible. I don't know how else you can see that play out again without knowing that Michael Jordan's in the mix of that conversation. But it has been cool to watch the Warriors. I think that's been awesome. But part of that again is the central figure of that is Stephen Curry, which will go down as the greatest shooter of all time. But yeah, I would have to say,
by the way, is playing at the peak of his powers over the last month or so. But it's football season. No one's seeing it, but my goodness, man.
No one's paying attention right now. Yeah. But Curry's incredible, man. Like, it's just wild to see a kid from Davidson then now all of a sudden come out to be arguably could be one of the greatest players that's played the game, man. I mean, it's just incredible. So yeah, lived out dynasties. I think the Bulls, Warriors, I think that's been really cool to see, historical.
I did not enjoy it during the Kevin Durant years. I'll be honest.
Well, I've never been a fan of, as a basketball player, I've been a fan of Kevin Durant. But
when else I couldn't stand it, Adam, was the Kobe Shaq.
That's a good segue to me.
Go ahead, Adam, take it away.
So if I were to ask what is my favorite dynasty, if you said you only have 3 years to watch sports, it would be Shaq and Kobe, man. Like, there's nothing like that tandem.
And the drama.
The big fella, a force unlike basketball has never ever known. And then Kobe with the fro and the young Kobe. Oh my goodness. That, to me, that's the most exciting. I have to watch this dynasty.
But it wasn't even the games. It was the after Sports Center when Shaq would take a dig at Kobe.
Drama,
and then Jim Gray in the middle. Hey, speaking of, Adam, if you haven't watched that Lakers documentary yet, you need to go watch it, which they came out with the Kobe statue the other day. In retrospect, and this is something I was thinking about, because there's a lot of arguments on like what deems a dynasty. I mean, the Spurs were probably the closest thing to the Patriots you could think of. I mean, just longevity dynasty. And I think the thing that somebody's pointing out about the Patriots compared to the Chiefs is the Patriots won 3 and then had like a long stint where they didn't win any, and then they won 3 more on the back half of their careers. So it'll be interesting to see, Patrick, like we said, some of those dynamic changes. And all right, let me ask y'all this. What do you think the hardest sport to have a dynasty in is?
I would say it'd definitely be one of the two major college sports, football or basketball. Well, that's tricky
Unless
because
you're named Alabama.
yeah, in the days we live in
That
with
is one
NIL,
day.
like money does something different. But I mean, if you look back, there's not been any colleges that have like really ran things except John Wooden, I think back in the 60s with UCLA. But even as we think about a Coach K or Roy Williams, Dean, we're talking about a 30-year career here and they win, 4 or 5 rings.
Right.
I would probably say college basketball then, and that was a different sport and time when Wooden did that. But I think still today, we haven't seen that in college basketball really.
I'd say NBA is probably the easiest because it's so star driven and
Yeah.
it's the least amount of players. I personally think NFL is probably the hardest just because it's so, you know, offense, defense. I mean, you can have a great offensive game and the defense stink, and you're so dependent on the other side. What do you think, John?
I think I'd really lean to baseball. I think
Mm.
just given the amount of players, the amount of games, the variance, all the opportunities for failure and success, balls made contact. You got to throw the ball, you got to make contact, got to catch the ball, you got to run the play down. I think that what you're seeing is a difficulty. I think there's teams that have obviously bought out a lot of talent, but that hadn't always produced at the level. They could gain a lot of superstars and still not do very well. When you're looking at dynasties, we haven't seen one in baseball be dominant over a decade. I
Mm.
mean, you think back at it, I mean, the Astros were very successful 3, 4, 5 years, but it's hard to maintain that. It's hard to continue to recruit good talent in. And so I think baseball has a big part of that. Whereas I think, obviously the NIL changes the college landscape. I would say college football or college basketball would have been, but now you're looking at a place where you kind of purchase players as you move along now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, before we transition out of our sports talk, John, do you think there's a slight chance that San Francisco may miss their Super Bowl window? Not implying that they can't get back there, but some of the defensive pieces that they got are starting to get banged up. I mean, Debo and Kittle. I mean, Kittle, he just can't make it through a whole game, it seems like, without getting dinged up. And you blink and you get there twice, and then you just can't ever get over the hump. Do you think they'll be able to maintain this for a few more years?
I think they got a couple more runs, and I don't think there's a lot of challenge. Is
Yeah.
probably why they have a couple more years of run. I mean, the other teams around them are just still building, will be building out west for quite some time, and so
Yeah.
they may not be dominant in their own playing ability, but I don't think they have the level of talent they do. Obviously, with the Chiefs and some of the other teams that are playing, I think they're going to see more proponents, especially Baltimore, Buffalo. They're
Yeah.
going to have to work through a lot more stuff to get there, which could be good or bad for them.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, let's transition to our ministry and leadership section, which is kind of cool because so many takeaways from football to real life. And so, Adam, why don't you take it over and kind of setting up some parallels from the game last night to just real life leadership?
Yeah, leadership, I think, is one of those things that God has so created the world to which you can almost look anywhere and learn something. The book of Proverbs teaches us to even look at things like ants and creatures, and we learn, wisdom as to how we live our life. And I think when we look at football, it's natural for us to hyper focus and fixate on Mahomes or the quarterbacks or the coaches. But I think one reason that most people like football is because it's the ultimate team game. You've got all these players, and even as a production, what we watched last night. Think of how many people went into pulling that off.
Yeah.
Down to the internet and the streaming services. Like it was all flawless. Um, but as we think about leadership, I think we can look almost around the field at various teams on the sidelines and see there's different kinds of leaders here. So a few that stood out to me last night, and it's not that no one knows who they are, but Nick Bosa and the leadership trait that kind of stands out with a guy like a Nick Bosa last night is relentlessness, effort. Because here's what he's thinking. All right, I am trying to get to arguably the best, if not one of the handful of the best quarterbacks who has ever lived. He also can run, and they're double teaming me. It would be easy for him to take a few plays off, but they did zoom in on him a few times, and it won't show up on a stat sheet. But he did something to affect a running lane or a throwing lane, and it completely altered the game. And then on, with Christian McCaffrey, it's the same thing. relentlessness. I mean, he's just putting his head down, driving right into the middle. And I think guys feed off that leadership sometimes isn't the loudest guy in the room. It's the guy that just goes to work and sticks his neck out for everybody else.
That's good. I'll throw a few in there. Actually, mine are kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, but the first one I thought of when you posed the question was Kyle Shanahan and the going for it. I think he made the timid decision. And sometimes in ministry or in leadership in church, you want to be measured and you don't want to be erratic, but sometimes having the awareness of seeing the big picture. And sometimes we would rather take the safer call and instead of the maybe risking a little bit with a bigger payoff meaning ministerially or personnel or whatever. And so that was something that really stuck out to me. And then somebody who I like, but Travis Kelce, everybody's making a real big deal about him kind of getting up on Andy Reid and, all that and kind of making him look like he's got on his high horse now that he's a celebrity. I think just team awareness. I don't think they have any beef, but just, hey, don't ever get too big for yourself. So that was one. And then the last one was the Chiefs at halftime. Andy Reid, he could have went in there, could have panicked. They said, "What did he say? What did he?" And he just said, "Well, we kept running the same plays. We just did them better, and we're more effective." And sometimes, we'll roll something out and maybe at church or leadership wise, and it's not quite working. And sometimes people will just throw out the game plan pretty quick. And he trusted himself. Adam sent over the play that they had to win the game is the same play they used last year. And so he's like, hey, just be calm. Yep. Be calm. Let's trust our system here. Let's not overreact and let's play the long game. And so those are some of the leadership principle perspectives that I pulled away.
Oh, anybody?
Oh, gotcha. I didn't know. I don't know who was going next or not. Sorry. Nice dead silence. Love it. Yeah, I think going back to Andy Reid, you look at how they scored both of those touchdowns, and both of those guys were wide open. And I mean, he effectively called a play that he knew was going to be able to scramble some people and leave somebody open. I mean, to have twice such a wide open individual in the end zone like that, knowing that the Super Bowl is on the line, like that's some pretty cool strategic planning from Andy Reid in order to be able to call a play to say, hey, this is what I think is going to be the most beneficial play for us to score. And I think, you take that leadership of an individual thinking to himself, it's not going to be Kelce, it's going to be somebody else. And the goal is we're going to be able to win, and the whole team's going to flourish because of running a play that's going to be effective enough for us to do that and accomplish that. And I think that's a good mindset to kind of have as shepherding people, is how are we doing things to be able to benefit the whole rather than just one singular individual, and be able to say how can we do things to cause the church to flourish, to continue to grow in its proper and right direction. And it may not come with the flashy, or it may not come with the individual that we would deem the rock star or the one that has to get the ball, but the quiet individual that can make a quiet effect on a lot of people just by serving, by doing something. And so leaning into something like that, I think, is really thoughtful of Andy Reid, and what we could do is just strategically saying what will cause the best outcome on this entire situation. And I thought he made a great play call on both of those things.
Yeah, I got two. I got one in a positive light that I think was really, really just part of the whole enthrallment of it. But Debo went down. I mean, everybody saw him lock up on the sideline. He runs back to the tent for 7.5 seconds, right? And then bolts back out onto the field. The very next possession, plays coming down, and they hand him the ball, and he just runs. And I think the leadership, paradigm is, there's injuries, there's hurt, there's hardship, especially within ministry. There's hardship, there's difficulty. People are calling you, people are dropping things on you before you stand up and preach. And I'm not saying you're in the Super Bowl every Sunday, but what you can appreciate is that hey, this is the biggest moment, right? I got to show up. I have to. Leadership oftentimes is just showing up and playing hurt, going in, continue to do what the Lord's called you to do and taking that opportunity and reflect that. And I think the negative side of that is the constant panning to Taylor Swift. I just feel like, hey, let's just take if we I don't know who's done it. Maybe someone's done it. Let's just calculate all the screen time that we gave to someone who doesn't play the game, who doesn't practice, who has no impact on the game whatsoever, and let's chart up the screen time. And then let's take away that screen time from every other person that was present, that was actually impacting and affecting the game. And what I mean by that is, as leaders, we can get to a point, if if we just reach this person with their influence or with their talents or with their possessions, then we'll have this great. And so we begin to kind of pander to those people. We kind of living our lives that, if I can just win this person over, then it's going to draw in a new audience and crowd. And I can appreciate the nuances of that, but all the while maybe missing the opportunity of the lady who's making coffee every Sunday morning faithfully, the person who's coming through and saying, hey, I grabbed some paper towels from the bathroom, that person who's not going to donate large sums of money to you or bring notoriety to you, but the faithful servant who in the kingdom of God is the least that will become greatest. And so those are two paradigms I saw within the game.
Part of that too is good.
No issue out there, Swifties. I love you guys. Don't want to get canceled.
Part of that too is like if you look at Valdez-Scantling, I mean, just taking a beating all year. And then the other one who came up from the Jets, I can't remember his name, but Mahomes kept going to him. Like there was one when he dropped that one, or he went backwards, and I said, oh, he ain't getting the ball the rest of the game. And then you know what he did? He got the ball the next play. I was like, oh, man, I think Mahomes really figured out the whole, hey, take what you got and make the best of it. And, he did, I think Adam said, he did all the little things well, check downs well. He didn't force it. Sometimes in ministry, we try and force it if it's not there. Here's another thing that I was thinking about too, is I was listening to Mark Schlereth, and he was saying how a lot of the reasons coaches are getting killed for game management is because analytics has just shredded game management, because there's old principles of, hey, this is what we do. And then you got some guy in your ear. He's like, saying, hey, we run the ball 1.5 yards further every time we run it to the left, And he said, you idiot, that's because Aaron Donald's on the right, and the analytics guy is not smart enough to put 2 and 2 together. And so, from a ministry standpoint, there's going to be new trends and new things that people are leaning into, but always trust the basics. And, you see Shanahan, and he said, hey, our analytics team, we made a calculated decision on why, and yada, yada, yada. And sometimes you just get too far out there in that stuff, and you just lose the basics. So
over analytics.
Yep. So
I say we dump the analytics.
Yep.
Straight away.
Yep. Dump them.
And just go back to coaching football and knowing your players.
Yep. You're right. Well, hey, it's been a fun season. We'll continue the football talk as off season comes. You guys have a great day, and we will be back in 2 weeks. See you later.